everybody doing? Happy Monday. It's Monday. Looks like we're got a couple of people, a couple of numbers are going up, so I'm gonna give it just a second. Hi, LJ. Hey guys. I want to make sure everybody can get on board. As you can see, we're live from the castle. I am Carrie Hunt. I am an actress in the community here. You are watching the Atlanta Artist Relief Fund story time. Check out the page if you haven't, and the group. There are lots of helpful resources. I'm an actress and a filmmaker and a coach, and I'm really excited to read to you guys today. So I love bunnies, and I was going through my storybooks, and I realized I have all these bunny storybooks. So it's like Bunny Monday. And one of my very favorites from when I was growing up is, let's see if you can see this, yeah, The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter, right? And it's all of her stuff here. There we go. Look at Peter Rabbit. Isn't he cute? All right, so we're gonna get started and read Peter Rabbit. So here we go. You can see all of the little bunnies. I'm going to get used to like moving like a mirror. There's all the little bunnies, right? So it says, once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, here, let's do it this way. And their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, and Peter. And they lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. See the fir tree that they're all under, right? Now, my dears, said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Right? That would be enough to make me not want to go, right? Now run along and don't get into mischief. I'm going out. And what do you think Peter did? I think he got into some mischief. We'll find out. So old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the woods to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. And there she is, walking through the woods. Uh-oh. Let's see what's going on with these little mischievous bunnies. Oh, there's Peter. Let's see what his brothers and sisters are doing. So Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. Naughty Peter, right? Oh, look at this. Yummy, right? First, he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes, right? And then feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley because he ate so much that he gave himself a tummy ache, right? Uh-oh, what's happening now? It says, but round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor, right? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, stop, thief! And there's poor little Peter running as fast as he can. Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe among the potatoes. Poor Peter. He's in trouble now, right? Uh-oh. Okay. So after losing them, he ran on all 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. So he got caught in his brand new jacket. Oh no, it's just getting worse for poor Peter, isn't it, right? Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears. But his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. So they asked him to try as hard as he could to free himself from that net, right? Okay. So Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving only his jacket behind him, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Oops. Right? But Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. Perhaps, he began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently, Peter sneezed, "Phew!" right? And Mr. McGregor was after him in no time and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out the window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter, so he went back to his work, right? Because Peter's a fast little bunny, right? And Mr. McGregor didn't want to have to run after him all day long. So here we go again. There he goes. So Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp from sitting in that watering can, right? And after a time, he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in the wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath, right? Because remember, he ate all the vegetables in the garden, right? So his tummy's a little too big, but oh, poor Peter, right? He's having a tough day. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the woods. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him, and Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his watering cans. A white cat was sitting staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, Benjamin Bunny. So he left the cat alone. He went back toward the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scritch, scritch, scratch, scratch. Peter scuttered underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned toward Peter, and beyond him was the gate. See if he'll make it, right? Oh, we hope he makes it right. We love Peter, even if he's a little naughty today. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go. See how he's running, right? He's running as fast as he can go along a straight walk behind some blackcurrant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the woods outside the garden. So there he is running under the gate, right? And he's going to be safe out here, we hope. Mr. McGregor had hung up the little jacket and shoes for a scarecrow to frighten away the blackbirds. Oh, here goes Peter. He's trying to go home now, right? Peter never stopped running or looking behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. See his tree right in his home, right? Till he got home to that big fir tree. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. He was so tired that he flopped down on the nice soft sand of the floor in the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. And here's all his brothers and sisters, his good little brothers and sisters, right? I'm sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter, 1 tablespoonful to be taken at bedtime to help him feel better, right? But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, guess what they had? They had bread and milk and blackberries for supper because they were good little bunnies, right? Oh, so fun. Let's see, let's read another story. Everybody's doing okay? Everybody's having a good Monday? All right, so it is not bedtime, but this is one of my favorite stories. It's called The Whispering Rabbit, right? And so we're going to read this anyway, and you can think about it at bedtime maybe, right? So it's a beautiful illustrations. It's The Whispering Rabbit by Margaret Weiss Brown, and it's illustrated by Annie Wan. And here's our little whispering rabbit with his little bumblebee, right? And I'm shifting around because I'm getting used to it being mirrored on me. So here we go. So I'm going to show you the picture. Look at him. It's nighttime, and he's getting a little sleepy, right? And it says, once there was a sleepy, let's do this. I'm trying to get you guys so you can see it. I'm sorry. Once there was a sleepy little rabbit who began to yawn. And he yawned, and he yawned, and he yawned. He opened his little rabbit mouth. I can't get to where you guys can see the book. I'm so sorry. I'm having the worst time. Hold on. Okay. I'll show you guys the pictures. I'll read to you and then I'll show you the pictures. So he opened his little rabbit mouth when he yawned till you could see his white front teeth and his little round pink mouth. And he yawned, and he yawned, and suddenly a bee flew into his mouth and he swallowed the bee, right? So here he is yawning and he's going to swallow that bee. See the little bee that's coming right up to him, and he's going to go, oh, and swallow a bee. Uh-oh, right? Hoo, hoo, said a fat old owl. Always keep your paw in front of your mouth when you yawn, hooted the owl. Rabbits never do that, said the sleepy little rabbit. Silly rabbits, said the owl, and he flew away. And there's our owl. He's looking at our little bunny. Right. The little rabbit was just calling after him. When the little rabbit opened his mouth to speak, the bumblebee had curled up to sleep in his throat, and all he could do was whisper, because he has a little bumblebee asleep in his throat, and he doesn't want to wake him up, right? And there's our owl flying away. What shall I do? He whispered to a squirrel who wasn't sleepy. Wake him up, said the squirrel. Wake up the bumblebee. How? Whispered the rabbit. All I can do is whisper, and I'm sleepy, and I want to go to sleep, and who can sleep with a bumblebee, right? And here he is talking to his friend the squirrel, right? And he's going to try to help our little rabbit out. He's very sleepy and just wants to go to sleep, but he's got a bumblebee in his mouth. Suddenly, a wise old groundhog popped up out of the ground. All I can do is whisper, said the little rabbit. All the better, said the groundhog. Come here, little rabbit, he said, and I will whisper to you how to wake up the bumblebee. You have to make the littlest noise you can possible, because a bumblebee doesn't bother about big noises. He's a very little bee, and he's only interested in little noises. Like a loud whisper, said the rabbit. Too loud, said the groundhog, and he popped back into his hole. Our poor little bunny, he just wants to go to sleep, right? But his friend the bumblebee was very silly and went to sleep in his mouth. A little noise, whispered the rabbit, and he started making little rabbit noises. He made a noise as quiet as the sound of a bird's wing cutting the air, but the bee didn't wake up. So the little rabbit made the sound of snow falling, but the bee didn't wake up, right? And here he is trying his best, making the sound of snow falling. You see a little snowflake on top of the flower right there. And he's making other little quiet sounds and trying his best. So the little rabbit made the sound of a bug breathing and a fly sneezing, right? And grass rustling and a firefighter thinking. Still, the bee didn't wake up. And look at our sweet little rabbit. He's trying his very best. Right? Oh, goodness. Something else. So the rabbit sat and thought of all the little sounds he could think of. What could they be? A sound quiet as snow melting, quiet as a flower growing, quiet as an egg, quiet as... And suddenly he knew the little noise that he would make, and he made it. He is coming up with his great idea. Right? It was like a little click made hundreds of miles away by a bumblebee in an apple tree in full bloom on a mountaintop. It was the very small click of a bee swallowing some honey from an apple blossom. There he is. He's making that tiny little sound. Let's see if it worked. And at that, the bee woke up. He thought he was missing something, and away he flew. So it worked, right? our little bee friend thought he was missing out on some tasty honey, and he woke up and flew away, right? What does that mean for our little rabbit? Well, what did our little rabbit do? That sleepy, sleepy little rabbit. He closed his mouth, he closed his eyes, he closed his ears, and he tucked in his paws and twitched his nose. Aw, he's going to bed. And he went sound asleep. There he is sleeping. Aw. I love this book. I think it's one of the cutest books I have ever read in my life. So it looks like we have time for one more. So we're continuing on our bunny theme here, right? Hope everybody is enjoying everything. So here is our next one. It's called Home for a Bunny. And it is written also by Margaret Weiss Brown, which I didn't know until this moment. And it's illustrated by Garth Williams. So she must like bunnies as much as I do because she writes about them a bunch. So here we go. The classic golden book, Home for a Bunny. All right. Here we go. Okay. So here we go with all of our little fun woodland creatures. And it says, spring, 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 sang the frog. Spring, sang the groundhog. Right? I know it's summer, but this was happening in spring. Spring, 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 said the robin. It was spring. The leaves burst out, the flowers burst out, and robins burst out of their eggs. It was spring, right? Here's all the little baby birds coming out of their shells in the nest. So sweet. In the spring, a bunny came down the road. He was going to find a home of his own, a home for a bunny, a home of his own. Under a rock, under a stone, under a log, or under the ground. Where would a bunny find a home? Right? Maybe you've seen some bunnies out in your yard before, right? On my walks, I always see little bunnies, and it's fun to leave treats for them. You can leave carrots or lettuce for them or celery, right? Where is your home? He asked the robin. Here, 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 sang the robin. Here is my nest, and here is my home. And we've got the robin in the tree, right? And the little bunny is learning all about where the robins live, right? Maybe you've seen some birds in the trees near your house. Here, 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 sang the little robins, who were all about to fall out of the nest. Here is our home. Not for me, said the bunny. I would fall out of a nest. I would fall on the ground. And he's right. A bunny's too heavy to be up in a bird nest, right? So there he is, hip-hopping down the road. He's going to go off and find something else, right? So he went on looking for a home. Where is your home? He asked a frog. Wog, 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 said the frog. Wog, 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 under the water, down in a bog. Not for me, said the bunny. Under the water, I would drown in a bog. But our frog is quite happy in his bog, isn't he? He looks pretty cozy in the water there. But not for a bunny, right? So he went on looking for a home. Where do you live? He asked the groundhog. In a log, said the groundhog. Can I come in? Said the bunny. No, you can't come into my log, said the groundhog. And there he is talking to his groundhog friend, right? Maybe there's not room, right? So the bunny went on down the road. Down the road and down the road he went. He was going to find a home of his own, a home for a bunny, a home of his own. Under a rock or a log or a stone, where would a bunny find a home? Down the road and down the road and down the road he went until, and here he is with his butterfly friend. We're seeing lots of butterflies now this summer, right? So he's hopping down the road. Let's see where, oh, he met a bunny. Where's your home? He asked the bunny. And look, here's his bunny friend. How sweet, right? He found a friend just like him, right? Oh boy, let's see what happens. Here, said the bunny, here is my home. Under this rock, under this stone, down under the ground, here is my home, right? And here's our sweet bunny friend showing the other bunny his little house, right? All right. Let's see. Can I come in? Said the bunny. Yes, said the bunny. And so he did, right? And look at that. Oh, so sweet, right? Oh, and that was his home. Look at that. Best friends, right? And they found a little home together. Oh my goodness. Well, those are all my bunny stories. I hope that you guys have enjoyed Storytime at the Castle with Miss Carrie Ann with the Atlanta Artist Relief Fund. Thank you so much for anything that you're contributing to resources and just community on the page. And please join us for our next story time. And thank you for letting me read stories to you. I love it too. All right, you guys, I've got to sign off because I have some other kiddos I have to visit. All right, you guys. Bye.